Welcome back. P3 was recently invited to Israel by the Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Alumni and tour guide Ami Dotan took us for a tour of Hezekiah's Tunnel, which was built over 2,700 years ago to securely bring fresh water from a spring to Jerusalem. We began the tour just below Al-Aqsa Mosque, the third most holiest site in the Muslim world. Ami, we're standing at one of the most historic places on the earth, just below this mosque and this incredible Temple Mount. Explain what we're looking at here behind us and the significance of this spot.
I think it's one of the most significant spots, as you said, because I think monotheism, the belief in one God, started over here in Jerusalem. It started when King David conquered the Jerusalem from the Jebusite and established his capital over here in this spot. Then his son, King Solomon, obviously built what we can see over here still, which is Temple Mount, or the first temple on top of Mount Moriah. And this is why, actually, if you think of it, then after Judaism, which has started over here, then Christianity, Jesus came to these same walls that you can see over here. Then Muhammad, with the tradition of his winged horse, coming to this mosque that you can see over here, the Al-Aqsa. So everything has started here and continued from here, and I think still influences us all over the world.
So you explain for me, because a lot of people in the West don't understand the significance of this mosque particularly for Muslims. Tell me a little bit of the story of how that factors in to the Muslim belief.
The Muslim believe that this is the third holiest place on earth for them, after Mecca and Medina. There is a chapter in the Quran that describes a night journey by Muhammad on his winged horse to the place at the end. He doesn't mention Jerusalem, but traditionally it is Jerusalem, and this mosque over here, which is called Al-Aqsa, or at the end. And from here he ascended to the heavens, okay? So it's very important for the Muslims. And obviously for the Jews we have the Wailing Wall over here, and Christians have this Church of the Holy Sepulchre all around, maybe 1 kilometer apart from one another. So it's for the whole of humanity, if you want, the Western humanity.
We have the Temple Mount, we have the Old City, and then below it we have the City of David, which is outside of the walls. Explain the historical significance of the City of David.
Okay, King David, when he became king of Israel, he wanted to unite two parts of his kingdom. And the only place which was in the middle, and it was not in Jewish hands to start with, or Hebrew hands to start with, was the City of David. It was the hand of the Jebusite. King David came over here, he conquered the city, he established his capital over here in the lower part of which is the City of David, and then his son, King Solomon, filled the gap where we are now standing with dirt, uniting the City of David below, Temple Mount above, and thus creating one big city that became the capital of the State of Israel, or the Kingdom of Israel, and then the Kingdom of Judea, after the destruction of the Kingdom of Israel.
Tell me a little bit about the history and the story of these ancient tunnels.
Israel is located very strategically. Many superpowers of biblical time wanted to conquer Israel. One of them was the Assyrians. They have managed in conquering and destroying the Kingdom of Israel to the north. They have managed to conquer almost all of Judea, and they have arrived here at Jerusalem.
What year is this? What year?
About 700 BC. 700 BC. And we are talking about a king, Hezekiah, who knew that the Assyrians were approaching. His source of water, the spring that provided water for the whole town, was outside the walls. And he knew that if he wasn't going to do something, the Assyrians were going to deny the city of its water. So he dug a tunnel, and he'll walk for more than half a kilometer in this tunnel, and we'll see how Hezekiah, in an incredible way, dug a tunnel to lead the water from outside, from the spring, which is outside the city, to the water pool, water reservoir, which is inside the walls of the city of David. He dug a long tunnel, over half a kilometer, to lead the water from the spring to the water pool, where it was used inside the walls by the population of Jerusalem, obviously denying the besieging army its water as well. So he led the water inside the tunnel, and for over 2,700 years this tunnel remained intact in spite of earthquakes, in spite of wars and everything, remained intact.
This is it's incredible that we're experiencing something that's happened again 2,700 years ago, and this tunnel is still intact, full of all the mystery and beauty and wonder of this ancient place.
It was like the coolest thing ever.
felt like it was like Indiana Jones. Way better than Disneyland. It's real. 2,700 years ago. Can't beat that. That is so cool. At the Mount Scopus campus of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem is a picturesque botanical garden. Inside is a series of tombs dating back centuries to the beginning of the New Testament. Professor Haim Oranovich, the director of Hebrew University seminars, took us on a tour of one such tomb that is a particularly interesting story. It's not often that I'm in a botanical garden and I see tombs that are 2,000 years old. What is the significance of these tombs?
All right. There's an interesting story here. It takes us back to before the university itself is established. The estate on which the university began its physical career, really, was purchased from Lord or Sir Greyhill and his wife, Lady Greyhill, and they had already been living here from 1890. In the early 1900s, their workers uncovered what turned out to be a whole system, one of the most complex burial chamber systems in the whole of the Jerusalem area.
Wow.
And in fact, you'll notice that there are openings all over here, behind us, around us, at least 5 different openings into systems of burial chambers, which go back to the time when the Second Temple was still standing. Wow. To give you the sense of things, we're talking about the time prior to and around the time of the life of Jesus.
I can't believe that you were telling me that this was covered up and in 1948 discovered that there was another tomb, but it was locked?
Yeah.
And no one opened it till when?
It was actually discovered earlier on, and it was locked over the period of time from the time of the War of Independence, basically, until the fellow who was in charge of a kind of renovation here, an environmental sculptor by the name of Ran Morin, came here, and when he had this particular tomb opened up, what he discovered was quite astounding. If you look at this fig tree over here,
I can see the figs growing right on it.
You can see the figs, you can see the beautiful leaves, you can see that they're multifunctional, but along with that, you can see that the tree's been cut down at its base over here. But in fact, like every tree, it searched for moisture to be able to survive. And its root system went into the burial chamber. And over the decades, simply the chamber had a clear floor. And the roots would just grow along that floor and into each of the openings.
All up the walls.
Around the walls, into the next openings, beyond, etc., creating what is almost like a surrealistic picture.
Many thanks to Canadian Friends of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem for making P3's trip to Israel possible. More P3 in a moment.